Hey guys, today we're going to go over something that I don't see enough of all over the internet, and it's extremely important, and that's bleeding control. So, bleeding control. Obviously, we're going to start with the tourniquet. There's a lot of good information on the internet about tourniquets. There's a lot of good courses on how to use it, but a lot of people will preach carry a tourniquet, always have a tourniquet, take a tourniquet to the range, and no one's ever actually pulled their tourniquet out of the rubber bands and used it and trained with it, done buddy drills with them. So let's go over some stuff we can do to just familiarize ourselves with the tourniquet. So I've got a couple different tourniquets here. You'll probably recognize them if you've been in this community at all for any amount of time. So the very first and most recognizable is our trusty cat tourniquet. Widely used in the military, especially when I was in 2008 to 2016. I was a Navy corpsman, and I mean, these were everywhere. Every pocket that you had, every med bag had tons of them in them. I mean, they were boxes and boxes and boxes when we're shipped to Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the world. So they're really easy to find. They're usually about $30 on the internet. I think they should be a lot less. There's nothing to them, but they're tried and true. The other type of tourniquet I carry is a SOF-T. If you've ever been in the military, past, 2010, 2012 era, these were getting used a lot more. Last, we have the improvised tourniquet. So TCCC gives us some guidelines, right? It gives us certain tourniquets we should use, or they recommend for use, and they don't really say stay away from certain things, but they don't recommend them for use. One of those things that people forget about is an improvised tourniquet, a cravat or like a sleeve or something, and a windlass. It's simple. It's a skill that a lot of people are forgetting because there's so much technology out there, and tourniquets are easy to find and easy to buy, but you're not always going to have your tourniquet with you. I don't care if you always carry one and you always say you have one and you have an IFAK in your truck or a med bag and you carry an IFAK at the range. There's going to be an instance where you just simply don't have a tourniquet, or maybe you used the tourniquets you have and you need another one. Okay, first things first, the cat tourniquet. These are very readily available, pretty inexpensive. They should be a lot less expensive, but it's kind of how you differentiate, them from the knockoffs. $30. If they're not $30 or close to $30, they're probably not the correct cat tourniquet. You can detect a fake by looking at the red tab. Older ones like Iraq era don't necessarily have a red tab. And then look at your stitching. Make sure you inspect that stitching all the way around. There shouldn't be any like major flaws in the stitching. So see how it's really nice. Also, let's take a look at this one's way out of date, but I don't think it's going to expire. It's not dry rotted. Take a look at the lot number and label, and then especially look at the branding, lot number, label, and in a SIN number right here, and that's going to tell you if it's a fake or not. So let's go over this. We're starting the buckle. The buckle is plastic. I have been known to break these. They've gotten better, but the biggest thing you're going to have to worry about with these is dry rot. You leave this thing exposed out in the sun and the dirt, like in environments like Afghanistan, Iraq, or, the Mojave Desert, anywhere where it's hot and sandy, these are going to get really brittle. And when you wrench on these things, they can break. So be careful about those. Always inspect those. We're going down. We've got our little plastic body here, also susceptible to dry rot and cracking and breakage. And then we have our windlass. Our windlass is also plastic. this is really important to take a look at. See, it is flexible and they can break. This is where you're going to be putting a lot of pressure when you twist this windlass down, when you use the tourniquet. Make sure you're looking for any kind of lines in it, any kind of weird bluing or kind of powderizing around this windlass. And if you see anything that looks weird, just replace it. Next, you're going to look at the windlass stay. So it's what the windlass is going to go into and lock in. You're definitely going to look for signs of cracking or wearing or anything like that. Also susceptible to dry rot. All right, let's move down. We're looking at all the Velcro. I mean, this thing is 4 feet long. You know it's been used if you've got wrinkles in the nylon and in the Velcro, right? It's going to bunch up, wrinkle. It's kind of going to feel elastic because it's shrunk. This windlass strap has shrunk this thing down to be tightened. So make sure we're running our hand down. Make sure that there's nothing that's bunched up or kind of off about it. Also inspect your Velcro. Make sure it's going to hold. It's really important the Velcro holds. I've never had any problem with the Velcro not holding. It's not very strong Velcro, but side to side, tension it's going to hold all day, especially with all that surface area if you apply it correctly. All right, so let's talk about application and storage. First, storage. So the guys you're going to roll with, make sure they have tourniquets that match if they're going to be using them on their IFAKs. So everybody needs to be trained with the guys that you shoot with and the guys you roll with, or whatever you're doing with them. I don't care. The government might, but your IFAK tourniquet, everybody needs to know how to apply it. And it's really good to get an SOP, a standard operating procedure, on how you're going to store your tourniquet on that IFAK. With the cat tourniquet, I like to completely undo the thing, not looped, fold it in half, make sure it's nice and straight, and then you're going to fold it in half again up to the buckle, and then one more time, and makes a nice little package. And then I like to store it with the windlass out, because when there is an emergency and there's something going on, somebody's shot, something happened, and you've got blood flowing on the ground, your hands are not going to be working like they should. They're going to be shaking. Your mind's going to be racing. I don't care how much you've trained. Your first time using a tourniquet, it's going to be up. So make it as easy for the guy using it on you to use. Fold that thing, easy. All you got to do is pull the red tab, and it's ready to go. We don't slide tourniquets over limbs unless you're putting it on yourself. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So we've opened our tourniquet. Now we're using it on another person. I recommend, and I've always been recommended, using both loops. Through the bottom loop and then back to the top loop. The reason is because that person is trusting this device that you applied. That's going to cause a lot less strain on this buckle and a lot more friction, so it's going to hold a lot better if for some reason the Velcro fails. And a lot of stuff can fail when blood starts getting involved. So make sure we're doing both loops. Really easy, under the limb, through the bottom loop, and then back through the top loop. Make sure this first one, you pull as much as you can through, and then you can do your top one. All right, now you've got the tourniquet on the limb, and you're going to throw the windlass. The tighter you can get the tourniquet before throwing the windlass, the better that this windlass is going to tighten down. It should only take like a couple turns, and it's going to be super hard, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt like hell. You'll know right away if it's working. The blood will stop flowing, and unfortunately, there's going to be some screaming and some cussing, and you're going to have to tell your buddy to either suck it up or shut or both. All right, so we've twisted our windlass. Now we're going to secure our windlass inside the windlass holder there, and then secure it with a Velcro. Notice there's a little label that says time there. Make sure that anytime you put a tourniquet on, you put what time you place that tourniquet roughly. I mean, if you can get it like exact time, put it on there. This tells a story, and this tells the paramedics or the doctors or the hospital, whoever is taking the patient, or even you, if you're doing long time care, how long that tourniquet's been on, because you're going to monitor for different complications. That's more complicated. We're going to do that later. Just know, put the time on the thing. Make sure you document it. It's super easy. You carry a Sharpie. I don't care. Just make sure you put the time down. All right, so we've gone over putting a tourniquet on another individual. Let's go over putting a tourniquet on yourself. In this case, if I have a tourniquet that I'm going to use on myself, there's one of two ways I like to store it. First is just like we had a store before. This is for two-hand operation. You have function of both hands. You can loop it through, put it on your leg, whatever you need to do. Just to save time, it's okay to do one loop on yourself. If you want to do both loops, good for you. But sometimes you are a little incapacitated, and maybe you got shot in the arm, or something's wrong with your arm, and you've lost use of one arm. So I like to store a personal use tourniquet that I do not keep on my IFAC, and I do not use on anybody else, that I know is for me, somewhere stored on my body, that if someone else knows about it and they want to use it on me because I'm jacked up, then so be it. But I know that this one is for me, for my personal use on me. So I like to store it already looped and prepped. Oops. Looped and prepped. So we've got a nice package, right? But when I pull it out, it's already looped. And I bet you can guess why. So now I pull it out of my pocket, and I've got some kind of wound on an arm. This is where I'm going to be able to slip it over an arm or a limb nice and high, and check it out. Pull the red tab. It's already tight, and I'm ready to go. Obviously, I want to store the windlass already stowed. And give it a quick turn. I mean, I'm already starting to feel that. This isn't gospel. You can store it however you feel comfortable. That's just how I store it. It makes it a lot easier to deploy for yourself. Just know that if you store it like this, I wouldn't recommend using it on someone else, because you're going to try to be sliding this thing over a limb, and there's a bunch of crap all over the place, maybe broken bones or flesh hanging off, and you're trying to shimmy this thing up or up a leg or over a foot, and it's just not a good idea. So remember, if you're using it for yourself, okay to loop it when you store it. If you're using it for a buddy, then store it like this. Let's go over these SOF-Ts and the differences you're going to find between these and the cat tourniquet. We have the SOF-T. This thing is slick. I love SOF-Ts. The only reason I carry a cat tourniquet on my IFAKs is because a lot of people haven't used the SOF-T, and there are a lot of people that train on the cats. So me and the guys I shoot with, we're going to carry cat tourniquets for anything that anyone's going to use on us, anything I'm going to use on other people it's only for me to use on other people is going to be the SOF-Ts. The SOF-Ts are awesome. Unlike the cats, we've got metal parts. So, older SOF-Ts used to be all metal parts with some clamps and some kind of different things, but they moved on to a mixture of metal and some like high density plastic stuff. I don't know what it's called, but super slick. These can be stowed, looped, or not looped, but as you can see, very easy to use. So it doesn't matter how you carry them unless your team or your buddies that you shoot with want them carried a certain way. They can be stowed open or closed. It doesn't really matter. So I can demonstrate a couple different ways to do it, but let's go over this thing from end to end first. So check it out. This is a metal clasp where your buckle is going to slide into. Super easy, a lot of tensile strength there, and very, very thick. Now, these aren't going to be susceptible to dry rot. The other plastic parts I'll go over, they will be susceptible to dry rot. Now we have a contact patch. It's got some grippy on it. You know, it gives more of a contact pattern and then gives something to secure all the hardware to. We're going to move down. We've got a windlass. This is a metal windlass. I mean, I've never seen a metal windlass break. They aren't susceptible to dry rot. I've never seen I don't know what type of metal it is, probably aluminum or something. They don't rust. They're awesome. Next, we're going down. We have the windlass stay. It clips in. It's plastic. It's very rigid plastic, susceptible to, you guessed it, dry rot. You need to be cognizant in inspecting your tourniquets. It's just like the cat tourniquet. These are susceptible to dry rot and the plastic pieces. What's cool about this is I've got my tourniquet stay, but I also have the tourniquet or the windlass stay, excuse me. And I've got a way to lock it in place. It's not going anywhere. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Moving down, we've got a seatbelt type nylon strap with no Velcro. Very easy to inspect. It's soft. It's a lot easier to store in your med bag. And then we're going to go down to the buckle clasp here. It's very easy to slide on the nylon back and forth. But remember, it is susceptible to dry rot. It is a dense plastic, so you need to inspect all your plastic pieces. Just inspect the whole thing. Make sure we're good to go there. So going down the nylon strap, you have the tag. You're going to make sure you review this with your manufacturer date. It's got your part number. It's a penning innocent right now on this one. Make sure there's nothing fishy about it. These are made in the United States. Try not to get the ones that are knockoffs made in China. That would really suck to get a tourniquet, use it on someone or yourself, and it break and it fall apart and you bleed out all over the ground and you die. So look for the legit ones right here. If you notice, there's a white spot here. You guessed it, time. Make sure we put our time on these tourniquets. Okay, so let's go over a couple ways to stow these and a couple ways to employ them. So I like to stow my SOF-Ts already buckled. and just kind of fold it up just like that. Nice package. Some guys will keep the rubber bands on them, and they're super easy to deploy with the rubber bands on. I just don't really like one more thing to hinder me from deploying this rapidly. So I don't usually stow it with rubber bands. And then, I mean, literally you pick it up, it falls open. You can slide it over your limb, right? Or unbuckle it, put it on your buddy's limb, pull it tight, and you have unlimited throw on this windlass. So I'm still going to preach that that first pull needs to be tight, but it's not nearly as important as the cat tourniquet, because the cat tourniquet has a limited throw on the windlass. It can only get so tight. It can only be thrown so many times. This is an unlimited throw. You can twist this thing to hell, but I'm still going to preach, get that first one tight. So exact same thing, kind of like the cat tourniquet. You're going to put it around your buddy's limb, and instead of looping through and all this, you're going to just clasp it, tighten it, throw the windlass, secure the windlass, and then record the time. Easy day. You'll know if it's working, like I said before. Now, on yourself, you can guess it. We'll have this thing stowed open, stowed just like I said before. We're going to grab it, put it on the limb, pull tight. Look at this. Look how easy this thing slips, and then start tighten the windlass, secure windlass, and then if don't forget to record that time. You'll know if it's working. And reusable. If you use, I don't know why you'd reuse it, but you know, I can train with this and inspect it and use it again. If I train with a cat tourniquet, I use this for out in the field, training my buddies, training myself, you know, training my kids. It's junk. You use it once, it's junk. Do not reuse a cat tourniquet after training with it. Once it's a training aid, it's always a training aid. So the SOF-Ts are a little different. I don't train with the SOF-Ts I use in the field and vice versa, but you can. It's not, you know, there's nothing that's going to bunch up or get screwed up. I mean, obviously you're still going to inspect it, make sure it's good to go before you put it in your kit, but very rigid, reusable, pretty awesome. Okay, so improvised tourniquets. We're just going to talk about this. Belts. The myth of the belt. Pull your leather belt off, pull your web belt off, and people will preach and preach and preach. Use a belt for your tourniquet. You know what? Let's go ahead and try it. Let's do a distal pulse test, right? So everybody knows how to find their distal pulse. Put your fingers on your radial right here, and you're gonna feel for that distal pulse. If you've got a couple tourniquets laying around that you can use for training, put a SOF-T on. Put your cat on, and feel for that distal pulse. See how long it takes, and then take your belt off. Get a stick or something rigid to make it, use as a windlass, and then put it on your arm and try to get that distal pulse to disappear. It's not going to work. I mean, you might be able to really wrench down on it and get the distal pulse to seemingly disappear. Just trust me, we've tried this over and over again. I've fought with so many Marines on this, because every CLS class and every TCCC class that I've done, there's always a student that says, I can use belt as a tourniquet. And you're just wrong. Go ahead and try it. And if you disagree with me, so be it, your life. But remember, your buddy's life is also at stake. So don't bet your belt on your buddy's life. The best thing to use, in my opinion, is if you have a cravat. A cravat is a triangular bandage. I left all my cravats out in the garage in my other med bag. But I also, a lot of people, when you're out in the field, you're going to be cutting clothing off of your patient. So why not use a sleeve? Why not use, a pant leg, wrap around, find something stiff like a stick or, a magazine, that doesn't matter, and make a windlass. Make sure you secure that windlass and make sure you're going to stop that bleeding. Look for those distal pulses. We can talk about distal pulses and stuff like that in another video, but for now, we're just going to go over, make sure that that bleeding is stopped. The biggest killer when it comes to improvised tourniquets is not securing the windlass. Think about patient movement. You're going to have that tourniquet on a limb, and you're in a firefight, or you're out in the woods and something happened, or at the range. If you have to move that patient, something's going to get stepped on, something's going to get loosened. It happens all the time with the cat tourniquets. That's why I say to double loop them. But with an improvised tourniquet, it's even worse. There's so many cases of guys putting on improvised tourniquets, thinking they're secure, and they move the patient, and the patient's bleeding out again because their improvised tourniquet did not hold. Make sure that that improvised tourniquet, that windlass, is super secure, tight in place, taped in place. I don't care. Just make sure it stays. Okay, so when to use a tourniquet. Guidelines have definitely changed civilian-wise over the years. Used to be, tourniquets are a last resort. That's idiotic. We've come to find that out. They still preach it. I've been through multiple first aid classes with my job. I'm a power lineman now, and we go through a lot of medical classes because a lot of stuff can happen in my trade. And it's surprising how many EMTs and paramedics and instructors come in and say, always use a tourniquet as the last resort. It's only within the last couple of years that I've heard, if you're bleeding, use a tourniquet. But there's more to it. So I'm not just going to waste my tourniquets on every drop of blood that I see. We're going to look at different types of blood, right? So we need to know the difference between like a capillary bleed, like you cut your little feeny, right? It's going to be oozing and dark blood. Everybody's cut their finger. Everybody's got a laceration, got punched in the face, got a laceration on their face. And it might bleed a lot, like on your face or on your fingers or whatever. But it's going to be an oozing, dark red blood. Normally, you don't really have to worry about it. You're going to cut your arm. You're going to see that oozing, dark red venous blood. Venous means it's coming from the veins. What we're worried about with tourniquets, tourniquet application, is bright red, spurting blood. Just pouring all over the ground. You can see the pulse of the blood. It's a 100% put a tourniquet on it right now. You bleed out extremely fast when you have an arterial bleed. If you're not sure, the rule is, when in doubt, tourniquet out. Just whip that thing out if you have any doubt and throw it on there. You're going to get, I would rather you get slapped on the pee-pee for using one of your tourniquets, or I'd rather you say, better safe than sorry, than not use it and then someone just bleed out on the ground while you're standing there with a tourniquet in your hand. It's stupid. So when in doubt, tourniquet out. All right, so what if we have determined that the bleed doesn't need a tourniquet? Does that mean right away that that bleed is not deadly? No. We need to stop the bleeding, no matter what. Take care of all of our super emergent stuff that we're going to it's going to be life threatening. And then you're going to see some different stuff when you're doing, your blood sweep and all that. And you're going to see some venous bleeds that are pretty bad. Big lacerations on the arms, on the legs, on the chest, especially, face and neck. It's going to bleed a lot. Arms and chest, not so much, but around your neck, ears, especially on your face and your head, there's going to be a lot of blood. So how do we stop it? So we got a couple different options we're going to go over. And the very first option is Combat Gauze. Everybody knows about Combat Gauze, I hope. So Quick Clot makes Combat Gauze. It's got what's called kaolin in it. It's a pro-coagulant, coagulating agent that helps clot blood. It's pretty easy to figure out. If you don't know how to use this stuff, if you flip it over to the back, there's cool little directions back there. Read these things. It's pretty helpful. But I'm going to go over it real quick. I have limited supply of Combat Gauze right now. I need to restock. But I'm going to open this to show you guys how to do it. Okay, so our Combat Gauze. Very simple to use. You can open it literally any direction you want, from any corner. They make it shaky hand proof. So we're going to tear it open and reach in. Now, up already. Anyway, so if you can see, there's a radiographic line there. It is laced with that clotting agent called kaolin. It works really well. Kind of smells funny. That's how you know you got the legit stuff. When you use a triangular, so a trifold bandage, it's not rolled, it's folded like this. It's really handy. I'm going to show you a technique I use. It's called palming. So we're going to palm the bandage in one hand. This will be my wound. Oh yeah. And what you're going to do is, this is a packing dressing. So we're going to pack the wound with the dressing. You want to make sure you really pack everything you can into this wound. So imagine you got venous blood, right, or some kind of blood coming out of your wound. Take it with your index finger. Try not to use 2 fingers. I mean, if it's 2 fingers, whatever, but get that index finger, and you're going to get into that wound cavity and stuff and pack, right? Finger over finger. Get this thing as much as you can stuffed, as hard as you can. I mean, like a magic trick. You want to see like David Blaine pulling a scarf out of his ass kind of thing. It is amazing how much of this 3 yards, which is, a lot of packing, 4 yards of this packing you can jam into a wound. So say you've got this thing all the way full and you've got the rest of this, put the thing on top. Now you're not done. You need to apply firm direct pressure. I mean hard direct pressure for 3 full minutes. 3 full minutes. If you don't have that kind of time, get a pressure bandage out and put a hard pressure bandage on that wound to make that kaolin and all that Combat Gauze to just do its job. Okay, so say you don't have Combat Gauze. You want to look for another type of gauze, any type of gauze, right? Combat Gauze is for the packing of the wounds. You can pack wounds with this. It's going to get messy. It soaks up a lot of blood really fast, but it also gets saturated very fast. There's no clotting agent in these, so it's going to take pressure with these. These are also really good for just basic bandaging. So this is, I believe, a rolled gauze. The other types of gauze are tri-folded, like Combat Gauze. You can get them in rolled. I don't know why you want rolled, but I'll show you the technique for rolled and not rolled. So the rolled gauze, try to find some tri-folded gauze. I'll show you the difference in the two of them and the benefit of having tri-folded gauze. But just having gauze, bulk gauze is great because you can pack wounds, you can wrap wounds. I mean, you can apply pressure. There's lots of different tricks you can use to effectively use rolled or tri-folded, just regular fluff gauze. And kind of poked and open. I think I had this one in Afghanistan, to be honest. So it's good we're using this one. Same thing, really easy, you know, dummy proof to open. It comes right open, and then you're going to pull it out. The one gripe I have with this, it's always hard to find the end. There it is. So you can pack with this. You can, you know, bandage with it. There's a lot of different applications for roller gauze. I'm going to show you what to do with the roller gauze, what not to do. Palming method works well. You know, same thing when you're packing. The only thing is you've got to unroll bit by bit, and it's a little more dexterity you're going to have to use. The one thing you don't want to do is, in a panic, pull this thing out and unravel it onto the ground, and now it's impossible to use. It's just a mess. So try to keep everything nice and rolled and in a nice package. And then what's cool about it is there's a lot of it. So you can pack and pack and pack and pack and pack, and it's going to go into this wound cavity. And then you can get a big ball of it on the top there. You can use the whole thing if you want. If you're low on supplies, get a string of this stuff, you know, make a nice pressure pad, cut it off, and now or keep it on, it doesn't matter. And then you can make a pressure dressing with it. It's pretty awesome. And what's cool about this is if you didn't get the bleeding under control, this is going to tell you right away. It's going to turn bright red. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. You can splint with it. You can pack with it. You can bandage with it. Always keep a bunch of this stuff around. Next we have the H bandage. This one's open, so I can open this one for you guys and show you. But make sure we've got a good brand. H&H is awesome. The H bandage is well known throughout the community. It's also got directions on the back. It's make sure you're getting the right thing with the NSN number, make sure it's closed, it's got expiration dates. I don't know, in my opinion, if I have an H bandage that's expired and I need to use it, there's no kind of clotting agent in it, I would use it as long as it's not completely jacked up when you open it. These do get holes in them, and they do get dirt and grime in them, and I've pulled these out in Afghanistan and unpackaged them, and they're full of dirt and they're just crappy. Depending on the situation, if you can't afford to throw it away, or if you've got more in your med bag, that use your best judgment on these. And then I'll show you this opened and how to use it. A lot of people like the H bandages. A lot of people like the Israeli bandages. You know, North American Rescue makes some pressure bandages. This is what I carried in Afghanistan. It's bright red, so you know that's what you're reaching for. This one's old school, been compromised. It's not airtight anymore. Look, it's got the rip tabs literally everywhere. You cannot this up. I mean, you got shaky hand syndrome. You just grab the thing and rip it open. It's gonna come open. So we open package. And what do we have here? We have a compress, so a pressure bandage, elastic roller bandage, and Velcro with an H. Okay, this is really hard to do on myself, but you can. Again, don't flick this thing out. You're going to roll it on. You need to roll the bandage on. If you unroll this thing, it's lying all over the dirt, and you're trying to wrap it around a limb, just try it sometime. see how good you do with that. So it has a absorbent pad for all the blood. Got a good contact pattern on there. I like to flip it. Sometimes flip it underneath, so you can put more direct pressure on the wound. A lot of the times you're going to use these H bandages, Israeli bandages, NAR, pressure bandage, whatever you decide to use, ink in concert with your packing. So you're going to pack the wound and dress the wound. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it. I could sit here for hours and hours, probably days, and teach about how you can stop bleeds, all the different ways, all the stuff that could go wrong, all the stuff that could go right. But that's for a full class. This is just a breakdown of like what I use, just some tips and tricks, and just basic how to stop a bleed. In future videos, I'll show you a little more in depth, maybe do some outside tourniquet drills, maybe get a piece of meat out and, you know, pack some stuff. We'll go into some different wound care. Got a lot of stuff planned for the future, but right now, like I said, it's raining outside, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to get a quick introduction, and let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this video. I want to hear feedback. So, till next time, we'll see you later.